Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is Kelly. I own Dogkind, and I specialize in confidence building for extremely fearful, semi-feral, or shutdown dogs. And today we're talking about how to build on your dog's food motivation, or perhaps lack thereof, so that you can use food in enrichment activities and in confidence building games. Building food motivation, simple, fun exercises for even the most fearful dogs. Who is this for? This is for you if you have a fearful, timid, or shut down dog who only eats in kind of limited circumstances, and you'd like to be able to use treats in enrichment and confidence building games, but your dog hasn't shown much interest in anything you've tried. Before you start, you need one relatively consistent eating context, or at least you need to have identified your dog's most consistent eating context. If you haven't done this already, we covered this in last week's video and blog, and I will link to that blog and video below this video. When identifying that most consistent eating context, some of the details we talked about in the previous video include location, like exactly where's the food, what kind of surface are you offering food on? So in a bowl, on a licky mat, etc. Time of day, and your location. Are you nearby or far away? The blog title to search for, if you want to look this up on your own, is Why Doesn't My Fearful Dog Like Treats? But again, I will link to this where you're watching this video. Okay, let's talk about eating games, how we can get our dogs to enjoy treats in a wider variety of circumstances so that we can start to use them in enrichment and training. You're going to start with that most consistent eating scenario. And then, this is optional, but I do this with my Confidence Builders course students, introduce a quote-unquote treat target. This is just a physical, visual cue to your dog that food is here. Really, it's a cue, if we do this right, a cue for the dog to approach it and then eat off of it. The treat targets I currently favor for my very sensitive students are silicone coasters or silicone licky mats that you cut into quarters. The reason for that is often we want more than one as we get more advanced with these games. We want several that are identical, so cutting a licky mat into quarters gives you 4. Snuffle mats can also be a good treat target for dogs who don't like other kinds of sort of hard eating surfaces. And if you want to have several of those, you can use regular size snuffle mats, but you can also find miniature snuffle mats. Some places I have in the past purchased those on Etsy, and I think they were made for guinea pigs. If you are using a treat target, this is your first step. You'll have your dog's sort of regular eating setup with food in their bowl or plate or however they eat. And right next to that, right next to the most used sort of eating surface, and right next to that, place the treat target. On both the treat target and in your dog's sort of food bowl or whatever they normally use, you'll place really good food. I usually use meat or cheese, not treats that are made for dogs when starting this training. And then if you have a dog who is more likely to eat if you aren't nearby, just go away and wait until they eat. Here is an example from one of my students, little Randy, and the plate is where he might have his meal, so pretty close to his bed, and there's a treat on it, and then you see a treat target, which is a coaster pretty much right next to that plate with a treat on it as well. So that's how it might look. Once your dog is eating from the treat target, or if you decide not to use a treat target, just skip this step entirely and move on to this next step. The next step in the game is, can you eat if there's a small change in this picture? And that means we're going to introduce just a tiny difference to the context or picture in which your dog was just eating. And this is where most people get hung up because we underestimate how small the step needs to be for a lot of our sensitive dogs, how small of a difference they can tolerate. Many of our dogs are pretty nervous about any change in the environment or any novelty. So some example first changes to try is to take that treat target or the food bowl if you're not using a treat target, 6 inches from where your dog was eating off of it pretty readily. Usually location is the first change that my students try, just moving the treat target a few inches. However, if you have a dog who is really sensitive to time of day when it comes to eating, like they'll only eat at night or after dark, you can try shifting when you offer food, just a little bit, like a few minutes earlier or later than usual. Here is another photo example from a Confidence Builders course student. This is little Buttercup. And here she's doing a slightly more advanced version that I'm talking about today, where she has 3 treat targets. You can see those 3 silicone coasters. But it gives you an idea of what the differences might be between one step and the next in this game. In the first one, you can see Buttercup eating off of one of the treat targets. And then in the next photo on the right, 2 of the treat targets have been inched out a little bit, and one of them is still in the same place. So that amount of change is what I'm talking about when I say make a tiny difference to the eating picture. And for some dogs, even this change would be too large. So you're really inching along here in order to make progress. Now, you might be looking at this and saying, well, that's way too easy. My dog's never going to learn or improve if I'm only inching these treat targets around by, just a few inches at a time. And you're right, it is really easy, or at least that's the goal. Because the whole point is for your dog to have easy wins at every step of the way. We want your dog to accumulate this huge positive learning history of there's a game and I can win it. Good things will happen and I can use my behavior to get good things. If we set up games that are too difficult, best case scenario, our dogs just don't get anything good from the game. But it could also just be another stressful situation for a dog who already has a life filled with stressful situations. If they see, oh, there's food there, I want it, I'm kind of conflicted, this is difficult. We want it to be easy and fun every step of the way. So easy is the point. And then, as you can imagine, your next step is yet another tiny change to this eating game setup. Moving at treat target another 6 inches. And I wrote here another 6 inches in a different direction because if your first change to the picture was moving a treat target like 6 inches away from your dog's bed or something, it's usually better the next time you make a change to move it 6 inches, like say to the side or something, rather than just steadily increasing distance from the bed. So your dog gets several repetitions of successfully eating off of a treat target in different positions that are still not necessarily always getting harder, more difficult because it's farther away from their bed. So move a treat target maybe another 6 inches in a different direction. Or you saw the picture of Buttercup where she had the 3 treat targets. You could leave the original treat target where it is, where they're already eating off of it consistently, and add a second one right next to it. So that gives your dog a small new challenge that hopefully will be doable. And here's little Randy again, and these 2 photos just show 2 steps in this kind of process. The one on the left is the one you already looked at, where we've got the plate where a meal might be and then a treat target right next to it. And then in the next photo, you can see the first treat target. He has multiple here as well, but the first one is now several inches out from that plate. So that's another example of an increase in difficulty in this game that might be doable for a very fearful dog. In summary, start when and where your dog eats the most reliably. Consider introducing a treat target, and the reason you do this is because it is a novel cue that if you condition it carefully so that your dog learns good stuff happens here and bad stuff does not happen here, it can become a generalization aid as in more advanced steps, your dog moves into new areas or new situations. And just inch along for easy wins every step of the way. All right, folks, I hope this was helpful. I am offering a free training starting next week, and registration is now open at dogkindtraining.com/webinar. I'll be giving you 4 steps to confidence and connection with your timid dog. I hope to see you there.